The silver bracelet caught the lights as Carmen Delgado stepped into Elite Fitness Academy. Her janitor's uniform felt heavy under 20 pairs of eyes. This wasn't her world. The gym catered to Miami's elite, trust fund kids, executives, influencers. Monthly membership cost more than Carmen made in 2 weeks. But Mr. Peterson offered her a guest pass after she cleaned his building free during the hurricane. Carmen's fingers found the bracelet, each bead carved with tiny boxing gloves. An inscription read, El respeto se gana en el ring, no con palabras. Respect is earned in the ring, not with words. Well, well, the voice cut like a blade. Someone took a wrong turn. Marcus Thunder Williams strutted over, black belt swaying. 24 years old, 3 years training, never lost, against anyone his trust fund hadn't paid to teach him. Mop closets in back, señorita, he announced loudly, unless you're here to clean up after real athletes. Friends chuckled. Carmen gripped a bracelet as familiar anger rose. She'd endured these moments her entire life. Mr. Peterson gave me a guest pass, she said quietly. I'm here to work out. Work out? Marcus's eyebrows shot up theatrically. This isn't a community center. This is where serious martial artists train. More laughter. Carmen noticed Tom Bradley, a gym instructor, watching with disapproval. Tell me, Mamacita, Marcus continued, what makes you think you're entitled to train with people who've dedicated their lives to martial arts? The bracelet pulsed with heat. Carmen heard her grandmother's voice. Cuando te falten el respeto, mi guerrera, recuerda quién eres. When they disrespect you, remember who you are. Isabella La Reina Delgado had been Cuban national boxing champion 3 times before revolution forced her family to flee with nothing but this bracelet. I've been training since 5, Carmen said steadily. My grandmother taught me martial arts aren't about proving you're better than others. Marcus laughed cruelly. Your grandmother? Folksy barrio wisdom? He turned to his audience. This is what's wrong with society. Everyone thinks they deserve what others earned. The words hit like blows. Every rejection, every not quite the right fit. Hey, everyone, Marcus called out. Our cleaning lady thinks she belongs with real fighters. Let's give her a lesson. The gym fell silent. Carmen felt every eye focus on her, phones emerging to record her expected humiliation. Marcus gestured toward the sparring ring. 1 round, señorita, you and me. Carmen's mouth went dry. Only Tom Bradley moved closer with concern. I don't think that's necessary, she began. Oh, but it is. When someone walks into my gym claiming they belong, they need to prove it. He waved off Tom's protest. Just a friendly session. I'll be gentle. Wouldn't want to damage the help. Ugly laughter followed. The bracelet burned against Carmen's skin. El ring no miente, mi amor. En el ring todos somos iguales. Solo importa el corazón. The ring doesn't lie. In the ring, we are all equal. Only heart matters. Carmen thought about her mother counting insulin doses, about executives who spoke past her, about every time someone tried to make her feel small. Then she thought about her grandmother, bloodied but victorious, holding championship belts. Carmen unclipped her cleaning supplies and set them aside. The action electrified the room. All right, she said quietly. Her voice carried a new note that made Tom's eyes widen. 1 round. Marcus headed for the ring, grinning. This is gonna be fun. Something in Carmen's fluid movement made Tom grab another instructor's arm. Call Peterson, he said urgently. Get him here now. Tom watched Carmen slip through the ropes with practiced grace. I think we're about to see something nobody will believe. Carmen removed her bracelet and placed it on the ring post, ceremonial, reverent. Ready to learn respect, Marcus called. Carmen looked at him, then at the crowd expecting her humiliation. Her voice carried quiet authority. "The question is," she said, touching the bracelet once more, "are you?" Generate a standard American English accent for this story. The voice should be from a middle-aged male with a deep, resonant, calm, confident, and warm tone. The reading pace should be 115% faster than normal, yet remain natural and articulate, as if someone is engaging in a direct conversation while storytelling. The voice must convey sincerity, depth, and profound empathy for the historical experiences and struggles of the Black community, expressing both an understanding of pain and an unyielding resilience. When reaching sections that are calls to action, use a bold and powerful intonation. Specifically, when describing moments of triumph and overcoming adversity, the voice should become bright and full of pride, highlighting the transformation from vulnerability to strength, clearly conveying a sense of victory and jubilation. Throughout the narrative, the voice must maintain an evocative quality, as if a wise and experienced individual is sharing invaluable lessons. This should create a personal, intimate connection while remaining authoritative and trustworthy. Incorporate meaningful pauses at key points to allow listeners to reflect and fully absorb the message, ensuring they remain engaged from beginning to end. Marcus climbed into the ring with theatrical flair, shadowboxing for his audience. "Don't worry, Chica," he called down. "I'll go easy on ya. Wouldn't want to damage the help." His friends laughed as he struck poses for phone cameras already recording. Carmen stepped through the ropes with fluid grace. The movement was so natural that Tom Bradley's breath caught. Something about her positioning screamed experience. "This should be quick," someone muttered. Marcus rushed forward with a flashy spinning kick, telegraphing his moves like a peacock. Carmen slipped the attack with subtle grace, flowing around his strike like water, never breaking eye contact. "Lucky dodge," Marcus sneered, but uncertainty flickered in his eyes. Tom studied Carmen's stance. Her feet were positioned perfectly, weight distributed like a professional. Her hands hung loose but ready, breathing steady despite the adrenaline. "Maybe I should teach you other moves after this," Marcus said with a crude grin. "I bet you're better on your knees anyway." Uncomfortable laughter followed. Carmen's hands clenched briefly, rage building like a furnace. The bracelet across the ring seemed to pulse with ancestral fire. Marcus threw a wild haymaker, expecting to end the joke quickly. Carmen didn't just dodge, she flowed around the punch with precision that made Tom's eyes widen. For a split second, Marcus was completely exposed. Instead of striking, she stepped back, giving him another chance. The crowd saw restraint as fear, not mercy. They cheered for Marcus, urging him to finish her off. Only Tom realized Carmen was controlling the pace while making it look effortless. "Come on, Mamacita," Marcus taunted. "Fight back. Show me what your grandmother taught you." Carmen's expression remained calm, but something shifted in her posture. Her stance widened slightly, weight dropping lower. Tom recognized it immediately. She was transitioning from defense to offense. Marcus launched a combination, his technique sloppy but powerful. Carmen weaved through them like smoke, each movement economical and precise. "What the hell?" Marcus gasped, sweat beading on his forehead. Carmen's grandmother's voice echoed. "Deja que se canse mi guerrera. El orgullo los hace estúpidos." Let him tire himself out. Pride makes them stupid. "Getting tired already?" Carmen asked quietly, her breathing controlled. The question hit Marcus like a slap. How was this cleaning lady making him look foolish? Frustrated, he abandoned technique and charged with raw aggression. Carmen sidestepped with balletic grace, using his momentum against him. He stumbled past her, catching himself on the ropes while she remained perfectly balanced. The gym fell unnaturally quiet. Even Marcus's supporters sensed something wasn't right. "Impossible," someone whispered. Tom pulled out his phone, not to record humiliation, but to document what he suspected was about to become legendary. Carmen moved like poetry, every technique flowing seamlessly, her body speaking fluent martial arts. Marcus spun around, face flushed with embarrassment and rage. "You're just running like a scared rabbit. Stand still and fight." Carmen smiled for the first time since entering the gym. Not cruel, but something far more dangerous. Quiet confidence of someone who'd stopped pretending to be less than they were. "My grandmother always said," Carmen replied, her voice carrying across the silent gym, "the ring reveals truth. Are you ready for some truth, Marcus?" The bracelet caught the overhead lights, each bead seeming to glow with anticipation. Marcus's mask of superiority cracked completely. "You think you're better than me?" he screamed, spittle flying. "You're nothing, a fucking cleaning lady who doesn't know her place." His voice echoed through the silent gym as racist fury erupted without filter. "I'll show everyone what happens when people like you forget where you belong." Several women in the crowd shifted uncomfortably. A few Latino gym members who'd been silent moved closer to the ring. Tom Bradley stepped forward, but Marcus was too far gone to listen. Carmen's movement changed. Not the careful defensive style she'd been using, but something predatory. She began circling Marcus with the fluid grace of a natural-born hunter, each step purposeful and controlled. "You want to see what I really am?" Carmen asked, her voice carrying authority that made the gym fall dead silent. She touched the bracelet across the ring. "My grandmother fought real fighters, not pretenders hiding behind colored belts." Marcus launched himself forward with desperate fury, throwing wild combinations with no technique or strategy. Carmen flowed between his strikes like smoke, demonstrating footwork that belonged in professional rings. She wasn't just avoiding his attacks, she was dissecting them, exposing every flaw in his form. "How?" Marcus gasped, his expensive training looking amateur against her artistry. Carmen began to press forward for the first time, not aggressive but methodical. She demonstrated a flowing combination that seamlessly blended boxing with capoeira kicks, each movement building on the last in a display that left experienced fighters speechless. "Jesus Christ," Tom whispered, recording everything. "She's been playing with him." Marcus's supporters stopped cheering. Even his closest friends looked worried as sweat poured down his face, while Carmen appeared barely warmed up. Her breathing remained controlled, her movements economical and precise. "Stand still and fight me," Marcus demanded, but his voice cracked with fear. Carmen paused, allowing him to catch his breath. "Fighting isn't about standing still, Marcus. It's about understanding distance, timing, and respect." She gestured toward the crowd. "Your friends are recording this. Do you want them to see you continue embarrassing yourself?" The question was mercy disguised as challenge. Marcus could surrender with some dignity intact, or continue and face complete humiliation. His pride warred with reality as the gym held its breath. "I'm not losing to some what?" Carmen's voice cut like steel. "Say it. Tell everyone what you really think." Marcus's mouth opened and closed. The racist slur hung in the air, unspoken but understood by everyone present. Carmen began moving again, demonstrating techniques that spoke to decades of training. A feinting jab that drew his guard high, followed by footwork that put her in perfect position for a body shot that would end the fight. But instead of striking, she stepped back.
My grandmother taught me that true strength is knowing when not to use your power, Carmen said quietly. She also taught me that bullies only understand one language. Marcus, desperate and humiliated, made his final mistake. He grabbed for Carmen's hair, a street-fighting move that broke every rule of martial arts. The crowd gasped at the dirty tactic. Carmen's response was poetry in motion. She trapped his arm, controlled his momentum, and in one fluid movement put him on his back without striking a single blow. The takedown was so smooth, so technically perfect, that the gym erupted in shocked silence. Marcus lay on the mat, staring at the ceiling, completely helpless. Carmen stood over him, not in dominance, but in dignity, a master who just gave a lesson to a student who didn't deserve it. "Yield," she said simply. The word hung in the air like a judge's gavel, final and absolute.
The gym exploded into chaos. Uncomfortable murmurs became thunderous voices, some shouting in Spanish, others in shocked English, all processing the impossible. Phone cameras flashed as people scrambled to capture the aftermath. Marcus lay motionless, his black belt now looking like a costume prop. His pristine gi was soaked with sweat and shame. When he tried to sit up, his hands shook, not from exhaustion, but from the complete destruction of everything he'd believed about himself. Carmen retrieved her grandmother's bracelet with ceremonial precision. As she fastened it around her wrist, the silver beads caught the light like stars. The simple action felt monumental, a warrior reclaiming her heritage. "Holy shit," someone whispered. "She destroyed him." Tom Bradley approached the ring, his face showing awe and professional respect. He'd seen thousands of fighters, but nothing like Carmen's display. Her movement and techniques belonged in Olympic rings, not local gyms. "Carmen," he called out, "that was the most beautiful fighting I've ever seen. Where did you learn to move like that?" "My grandmother didn't just teach me to fight," Carmen replied, her voice carrying across the buzzing gym. "She taught me that true strength comes from defending what's right, not putting others down." The crowd pressed closer. People who'd laughed at her minutes earlier now looked at her with reverence. Several women found their voices, telling Carmen how inspired they felt. Latino gym members approached to share their own stories of discrimination. "Miss," said an older woman from the juice bar, "I've been coming here 2 years, and I've never seen anything like that. You didn't just beat him, you taught him about respect." Marcus finally stood, legs unsteady. The fight had been physical, but the real damage was psychological. Every assumption of privilege-based superiority, every casual racist comment, every dismissal based on someone's job, all lay shattered on the gym floor. He looked around at faces that had cheered for him, now showing disappointment and disgust. His friends avoided eye contact. The social hierarchy he'd counted on crumbled when Carmen proved skill and character mattered more than birthright. I'm sorry," Marcus said, quietly, barely audible. It wasn't enough, might never be, but it was his first honest statement all day. Carmen studied his face, searching for sincerity beneath humiliation. She found something unexpected, genuine shame mixed with confusion. This wasn't just a racist being exposed. This was someone realizing everything he'd been taught about the world was wrong. "Sorry isn't enough," she said firmly, "but it's a start." Tom Bradley stepped forward with a life-changing offer. "Carmen, I want you to teach here, not as a student, as an instructor. This gym needs someone who understands what martial arts really means." He glanced at Mr. Peterson, who just arrived. "Full instructor salary, plus we'll waive membership fees for your family." The offer hung like a lifeline. Carmen thought about her mother's medical bills, working 3 jobs to survive. Every door slammed in her face for being not quite the right fit. Now, suddenly, a door opened, not from charity, but because she'd proven her worth. Fundamentally. "I accept," she said, her voice steady with quiet dignity. The gym erupted in applause that shook the building's foundations. Carmen looked around at faces, some still processing what they'd witnessed, others celebrating merit over prejudice. She touched her grandmother's bracelet, feeling the weight of 3 generations who'd refused to be invisible. "My grandmother always said the ring doesn't lie," Carmen announced to the crowd. Today, everyone learned what that means. 3 weeks later, Elite Fitness Academy had transformed. Carmen's morning classes drew crowds that spilled beyond the training area. Women who'd never stepped foot in a gym showed up in borrowed workout clothes, drawn by stories of the instructor who'd proven strength came from within. "Remember, it's not about overpowering your opponent," Carmen explained to 20 students, her voice carrying the authority that had silenced the gym weeks earlier. "It's about understanding their energy and redirecting it." She demonstrated the technique she'd used on Marcus, a flowing movement that turned aggression into vulnerability. The women watched as Carmen showed how proper footwork could neutralize someone twice their size. "My grandmother taught me this when I was 12, Carmen continued, touching her trademark bracelet. She said, "El verdadero poder es convertir la fuerza en sabiduría." True power is turning strength into wisdom. Among her students sat Maria Gonzalez, a 19-year-old who cleaned offices downtown. She'd saved for 3 weeks to afford membership after hearing Carmen's story through the Latino community. Now she hung on every word, seeing possibilities she'd never imagined. "Coach Carmen," Maria asked during break, "how do you deal with people who try to make you feel small?" Carmen smiled, recognizing the pain behind the question. "You remember that their opinion isn't your truth. Your truth is what you can do, who you are, and how you treat others. Everything else is noise." The answer resonated through the group. Several women shared quiet stories of workplace harassment and casual dismissals. Carmen's class had become more than martial arts. It was a community learning to take up space in a world that told them to shrink. In the corner, Marcus Williams sat quietly, nursing emotional wounds from his humiliation. Former friends avoided him, viewing him as a social liability. His trust fund couldn't buy back respect once lost. Today, he'd watched Carmen's entire class, studying techniques that had dismantled his ego. But more than that, he'd observed how she taught, with patience, encouragement, and genuine care. Everything his expensive lessons had never been. After class ended, Marcus approached Carmen with visible nervousness. His confident swagger had been replaced by genuine humility. "Carmen," he said quietly, "could I talk to you?" She studied his face, seeing none of the arrogance from their first encounter. "What's on your mind, Marcus?" "I've been thinking about what you said, about the ring revealing truth." He gestured toward where she'd defeated him. "I realized I've never actually learned to fight. I just learned to look like a fighter." Carmen waited, letting him find his words. "Would you," Marcus's voice cracked, "would you consider teaching me? Not just techniques, but whatever made you who you are." The request hung like a bridge between 2 different worlds. Around them, the gym continued its rhythm, weights clanking, people pursuing transformation. But this moment felt suspended. Carmen looked at Marcus, really looked. She saw someone whose worldview had crumbled, leaving him scrambling to rebuild identity on something more solid than inherited privilege. Not enough to erase past harm, but a beginning. "My grandmother used to say the best students are the ones who've been humbled," Carmen said finally. She also said learning to fight properly means learning when not to fight at all. Marcus nodded eagerly, hope flickering. "If you want to train with me," Carmen continued, "you start at the bottom. No special treatment, no shortcuts. You learn respect before techniques. And you help teach beginners, especially women and people of color, who remind you why you needed to change." "I'll do whatever it takes," Marcus said, and for the first time she'd known him, Carmen believed he meant it. She touched her grandmother's bracelet, feeling the weight of 3 generations who chose courage over comfort, growth over grudges. Class starts Monday at 6 a.m. Don't be late. 6 months after the fight that changed everything, Carmen stood before a packed auditorium at Miami-Dade Community College. The invitation to speak at their Breaking Barriers symposium had arrived on official letterhead that made her mother cry with pride. "When I walked into Elite Fitness Academy that day," Carmen began, her voice carrying to the back rows filled with young Latinas, "I wasn't planning to become an inspiration. I was just a janitor trying to use a guest pass." Gentle laughter rippled through the audience. In the front row, Maria Gonzalez sat wearing the silver bracelet Carmen had given her, a replica inscribed with the same words of strength. Beside her, Marcus Williams took notes, his expensive clothes replaced by a simple gym uniform. "My grandmother Isabella taught me that respect isn't given based on what you wear," Carmen continued, touching her bracelet. "It's earned through character, discipline, and how you lift others as you rise." The video of Carmen's fight had gone viral, shared millions of times across social media. But what resonated wasn't the physical domination, it was the dignity she'd shown in victory, turning personal triumph into a lesson about humanity. Major martial arts magazines featured articles about her teaching philosophy. The Delgado method, they called it, technical excellence blended with emotional intelligence that transformed students from within. Gym owners from across Florida observed her classes, hoping to understand the magic that made Elite Fitness the state's most sought-after training facility. "The real fight," Carmen explained to her audience, "isn't against other people. It's against the voice saying you don't belong, that you're not good enough, that you should settle for less than your dreams." Dozens of women nodded in recognition. They'd all heard that voice in job interviews, family gatherings, moments of self-doubt. Carmen's story gave them permission to fight back. Tom Bradley watched from the entrance with obvious pride. Elite Fitness membership had tripled since Carmen joined. More importantly, the gym's culture had transformed completely. Toxic masculinity and casual racism had been replaced by mutual respect and genuine growth. "She's changed everything," Tom whispered to Mr. Peterson, "not just the gym, the whole community." After her presentation, Carmen was surrounded by young women asking advice, sharing stories of discrimination and dreams. Each conversation reminded her why she'd stepped into that ring, not for personal glory, but for everyone told they didn't belong. "Miss Carmen," called a teenage girl who looked like Carmen at that age, "I work at a restaurant where the manager says I'm not professional enough for the front desk. What should I do?" Carmen knelt to meet her eyes. "You document everything, excel at every task, and remember their limitations aren't your ceiling." Most importantly, she gestured to her bracelet, "Never let anyone convince you to make yourself smaller." As the crowd dispersed, Marcus approached with the respect he'd maintained throughout 6 months of training. Early morning classes had humbled him completely while building something stronger than privilege ever had. "Carmen," he said quietly, "I got accepted to the community college's social work program. I want to use what you've taught me to help people like who I used to be." Carmen studied his face, seeing genuine transformation where arrogance once lived. "That's good, Marcus, but remember, this work isn't about redemption. It's about service. The moment you think you've done enough, you stop growing." He nodded, understanding. "Thank you for giving me a second chance." As Carmen walked toward the exit, bracelet glinting in evening light, she reflected on how far she'd traveled from that nervous janitor. Her grandmother's legacy hadn't just survived, it had multiplied, spreading through every student and person who heard their story. The ring truly didn't lie. Tonight, Carmen knew Isabella would be proud. The phone call came Tuesday morning while Carmen taught her advanced class. Maria answered, eyes widening as she listened. When she hung up, her hands shook. "Coach Carmen," she whispered, interrupting the session, "that was ESPN. They want to feature you in their Champions of Change documentary series." The gym fell silent. Even Marcus, helping demonstrate a technique, stopped mid-movement. ESPN, the network that made legends, wanted to tell Carmen's story to millions. "Your fight video has been watched over 50 million times," Maria continued, barely containing excitement. "They want to film here, interview students, maybe get your mother on camera." Carmen's first thought wasn't about fame. It was about grandmother Isabella, who'd won championships in Cuba but died in anonymity. Now her legacy would be broadcast worldwide. 3 weeks later, production crews transformed Elite Fitness Academy into a television set. Professional lighting illuminated the ring where Carmen had changed her life, cameras capturing every angle of the space sacred to so many women. "Tell me about that moment," the interviewer asked Carmen near her grandmother's photo, now prominently displayed, "when you realized this wasn't just about proving yourself." Carmen touched her bracelet. "When I saw fear in Marcus's eyes, I knew this was bigger than one fight. It was about every person told they didn't belong, every dream dismissed because of background." The camera panned to Marcus, leading beginners class with remarkable patience. The transformation was startling, from entitled bully to dedicated teacher. His students, mostly women of color, hung on his words about respect and humility. "Marcus has become one of our most requested instructors," Tom Bradley explained. "Students love him because he understands what it's like to be wrong and choose to grow." The crew followed Carmen home to Little Havana, where her mother waited in their small apartment. Medical equipment that once symbolized financial burden now represented victory. Carmen's success had secured the best care possible. "Mi hija always carried Isabella's strength," Carmen's mother said, holding the original championship photo from Cuba. "But she added something her grandmother never had, the chance to teach the world." The most powerful moment came at the community center where Carmen first learned to fight. The rundown facility looked exactly the same: cracked mirrors, patched heavy bags, inspirational quotes in Spanish and English on peeling walls. "This is where it really started," Carmen told the camera, voice thick with emotion. "Not in the fancy gym, but here, where kids like me came to dream bigger than circumstances." Young girls watched from the corner, eyes wide with recognition. Carmen had started a free program here, teaching self-defense to children whose parents couldn't afford elite fitness fees. The Bracelet Fund provided equipment and scholarships to anyone needing them. "The real victory," Carmen explained, showing a display case filled with replica bracelets given to graduates, "isn't what you win for yourself, it's what you make possible for others." ESPN captured Carmen's evening routine, sitting with her mother while Celia Cruz played softly, sharing daily stories. Music that had once been escape from poverty was now celebration of prosperity earned through courage. "Isabella would be amazed," her mother said, tears glistening. "Her granddaughter didn't just preserve the family legacy, she multiplied it across generations." As production wrapped, Carmen received another call, testing everything she'd learned about success. A major network offered her a television show, Carmen's Champions, traveling the country, finding and training underdogs while sharing their stories. The offer was substantial enough to change her family's life forever. But looking around Elite Fitness Academy, at Maria teaching women self-defense and Marcus patiently correcting beginners, she realized she'd already changed her life in ways that truly mattered. "Some opportunities come disguised as choices," she told the interviewer in her final segment, "but when you know who you are and what you stand for, the choice becomes clear." The bracelet caught studio lights one last time as Carmen smiled, knowing whatever decision she made would honor both her grandmother's memory and the community that had given her purpose beyond her wildest dreams.
1 year after the ESPN documentary aired, Carmen stood in the same ring where everything had changed. The gym was packed for the annual Isabella Delgado Memorial Tournament, where women from across Miami competed not for trophies, but for scholarships that would change their lives. "My grandmother always said that true champions create other champions," Carmen announced into the microphone, her voice carrying the confidence that had become her trademark. In the front row, her mother sat beaming with pride, wearing a replica of Isabella's championship bracelet. Beside her, Maria Gonzalez, now a certified instructor and college sophomore, helped translate for Spanish-speaking families who traveled from across the state. Carmen had turned down the television offer. The decision surprised everyone except those who knew her best. Instead of traveling the country, she'd chosen to deepen her roots in Miami, expanding her programs and creating a training center that served as a model nationwide. When ESPN asked me to take my story on the road, Carmen continued, touching her bracelet, I realized the most powerful stories aren't told, they're lived. They happen right here in this ring every single day. The tournament featured women of all backgrounds, single mothers who trained after their kids went to bed, college students balancing work and school, immigrants like Carmen's grandmother who'd left everything behind for something better. Each fighter carried her own story of resilience. Marcus Williams, now completing his social work degree, served as referee. His transformation from privileged bully to dedicated advocate remained one of Carmen's proudest achievements. He'd used his family's resources to fund additional scholarships, ensuring financial barriers never preventing deserving women from training. Marcus, Carmen called him over during a break, remember when you asked me what made me who I am? He nodded, his expression serious. The arrogance that once defined him had been replaced by genuine humility and purpose. It wasn't the fighting that made me strong, Carmen continued. It was the community, the people who believed in me before I believed in myself. During the tournament, Carmen noticed a young girl watching from the stands, no more than 12, her eyes tracking every movement with intensity Carmen recognized from her own childhood. She approached the girl's family. "Your daughter has good eyes," Carmen said to the mother in Spanish. "Has she ever trained?" The woman shook her head sadly. "We can't afford lessons. She just loves to watch." Carmen smiled, remembering her own mother's similar struggles. "What's her name?" "Sophia." Carmen knelt beside Sophia, whose eyes widened with recognition. "Would you like to learn to fight with heart, not just technique?" Sophia nodded eagerly, unable to speak. Carmen removed one of her replica bracelets and placed it around Sophia's small wrist. "This comes with responsibility. You train hard, respect others, and help lift up the people around you. Can you do that?" "See, Coach Carmen," Sophia whispered, staring at the bracelet like it was made of magic. As the tournament reached its climax, Carmen felt her grandmother's presence more strongly than ever. Isabella's legacy had grown beyond anything the Cuban champion could have imagined. The ring that had once been a place of personal struggle had become a sanctuary for an entire community. The final match featured two women whose stories epitomized everything the program represented. Anna, a single mother who cleaned offices at night and trained at dawn, facing Jennifer, a recent college graduate who'd overcome an abusive relationship to find strength in martial arts. "No matter who wins tonight," Carmen announced to the cheering crowd, "both of these women are already champions. They've conquered fear, overcome obstacles, and proven that strength comes from character, not circumstances." As the fighters touched gloves, Carmen touched her bracelet one final time. The silver beads had witnessed 3 generations of women refusing to be defeated. First Isabella in Cuba, then Carmen in this very gem, and now countless others who would carry the legacy forward. Watching Sophia's eyes light up with possibility while her mother wiped away tears of hope, Carmen knew that the most important victories were just beginning.
6 months later, Carmen stood at the edge of the ring watching Sophia's first real sparring session. The 12-year-old moved with natural grace, her grandmother's bracelet catching the morning light as she practiced the combinations Carmen had taught her. Every movement carried purpose. Every technique honored the legacy she now carried forward. "Remember, Sophia," Carmen called out, "power comes from precision, not force. Let your opponent's energy guide your response." Sophia nodded, adjusting her stance with the seriousness of someone who understood she was part of something bigger than herself.
Around the gym, other young girls watched and learned, each wearing their own replica bracelets, each carrying their own dreams of strength and dignity. Maria Gonzalez, now head instructor for the youth program, smiled as she watched Sophia's progress. "She reminds me of someone else who walked in here thinking she didn't belong," Maria whispered to Carmen. Carmen touched her original bracelet, feeling the warmth of 3 generations pulsing through the silver. We all start somewhere. The question isn't where you begin, it's where you choose to go. On the far side of the gym, Marcus worked patiently with a group of teenage boys, teaching them that true masculinity meant protecting others, not dominating them. His transformation had become as legendary as Carmen's fight, proof that even the most privileged could learn humility and purpose in service. The morning light streamed through the gym's windows, illuminating the wall where Isabella's championship photo hung beside dozens of images showing the program's graduates, college students, business owners, teachers, mothers, all women who'd learned to fight for their dreams in this sacred space. Carmen's phone buzzed with a text from her mother. "Watching the live stream from the doctor's office. Sophia looks just like you did at that age. Abuela would be so proud." The medical appointments that had once filled Carmen with anxiety now brought only gratitude. Her mother's health was stable, her spirits high, her days filled with the joy of watching her daughter change lives for a living. "Coach Carmen," Sophia called out during a break, her face glowing with exertion and excitement. "My friend Rosa wants to join the program, but her family can't afford it. Can she get a bracelet too?" Carmen smiled, remembering her own hunger to help others, even while learning to help herself. "Of course, mija, that's what the bracelets are for, to remind us that we rise by lifting others." As the session continued, Carmen reflected on the journey that had brought her here. From that first terrifying day when Marcus had challenged her to prove she belonged, to this moment watching the next generation discover their own strength. The ring hadn't just revealed truth, it had created it, one student at a time. The silver bracelet caught the light one final time as Carmen raised her hand to address her students. "My grandmother used to say that champions aren't born in victory, they're forged in struggle. Each of you carries that forge within you. Each of you has the power to create champions in others." Sophia looked down at her bracelet, then up at Carmen with eyes that held the same fire that had burned in Isabella's heart 70 years ago in Cuba. The legacy was safe. The ring would continue to tell its truth, and somewhere in the warm Miami air, 3 generations of strong women smiled as their dreams multiplied into infinity. "Remember," Carmen said, her voice carrying across the gym and into the hearts of everyone present, "some fights are won with fists, others with heart, but the greatest victories happen when you fight for something bigger than yourself." The bracelet pulsed with ancient wisdom and endless possibility, ready for whatever battles tomorrow might bring.